You know what happens, friends, when we go in our full power? We are going to be noticed. We are going to separate from the crowd.
I'm Patrice Washington, and this is the Redefining Wealth podcast, where authenticity leads to alignment and abundance. Join us each week as we peel back the layers on what wealth truly means and dive into conversations that inspire, connect, and empower you to live your richest life. Get ready to challenge the status quo. It's time to redefine wealth for yourself. Welcome back to the Redefining Wealth podcast. And if you're brand new here, welcome for the very first time. I am so excited to have you. And here's what you need to know. You just stepped into a community of purpose chasers from all over the world who are like-hearted and like-minded. We know that you were led here because, like us, you understand that wealth is so much more than money and material possessions. You understand that the true original definition, the 12th century definition of wealth, says it's about the condition of well-being and happiness. And even if you didn't know that consciously, I bet you felt that in your spirit. So that means, friend, you are home. You are in the right place. If you are looking for a space where we all gather, I want to encourage you to download the Redefining Wealth app. There are 2,000 purpose chasers over there and growing every day. And it is such a safe, aligned, beautiful, sacred space where you can meet your people. I guarantee you there's someone in your neck of the woods, maybe not too far away, who aligns with this message. And maybe you guys can connect over in the Redefining Wealth app. It's totally free to enjoy. It's such a blessing to host that space. And it's such a blessing to have a place where I can receive your DMs without distractions and hear how this work is blessing you. We have been talking all month about what it means to make the space to heal. And I invited my girl Amber to the show because she and I just had a beautiful one-on-one conversation, and we were healing a lot of the work pillar related things that we just heard as we've both been building these businesses for over a decade. And Amber is so grounded in her why and her ability to create a business around her life, not try to fit her life in around the business like many of us are kind of taught. That is what redefining wealth is. And so I pray that as you continue, as we move on from this theme and go into the next month, I just pray that you continue to understand that it's your right to redefine wealth for yourself, and you get to heal whatever trauma, whatever stories you've heard around the work pillar and how things have to go. The reality is, nothing has meaning except for the meaning that we assign. And even well-meaning mentors and guides and counselors and parents throughout the years may have put their limiting beliefs about what business and work and career had to look like on us. And we get to shed that in this season. And I hope that that's what this conversation does for you. And maybe the work pillar is not the problem for you. I want to encourage you to take the Redefining Wealth quiz. It's less than 2 minutes, and it'll help you pinpoint which one of the pillars out of my 6 pillars of wealth you may want to start your healing journey with. So go to patricewashington.com/quiz. You can find a link in the show notes, and let's get you on the journey to healing whichever one of these pillars needs your support right now in this moment. Now, Amber Lilyestrom is a business mentor, branding expert, author, and speaker renowned for her expertise in business, energetics, and brand alchemy. Her work has been featured by Forbes, Entrepreneur, Success, Tony Robbins, and Dean Graziosi's Mastermind.com, Mind Valley, and more. As the host of the Ignite Your Dream podcast and author of books Master Your Money Mind and Paddle Home, Amber empowers her clients to achieve quantum leaps in their businesses. Right after you hear the affirmation of the week, the next thing you'll hear is my conversation with Amber Lilyestrom. This week's affirmation is, I make space for my life to come first. I affirm the importance of making space to prioritize my life and well-being above all else. understanding that true success starts with a fulfilled and balanced self. I honor my needs, desires, and personal growth, knowing that when I nurture my soul, my business and career flourish naturally. I give myself permission to rest, rejuvenate, and enjoy the moments that bring me joy without guilt or hesitation. My life is a precious gift, and I choose to invest in my happiness, health, and relationships first. By putting my life at the forefront, I create a foundation of wholeness that supports sustainable success in all areas, because that is redefining wealth. Declare with me today, I make space for my life to come first. Welcome to the Redefining Wealth podcast, Amber.
Oh, Patrice, I'm so excited to be here with you, sister.
Girl, I have been looking forward to this interview since we had our girl talk, just a little Zoom jam session. I love being able to just get to know new people. And I'm really grateful to Kathy Heller for introducing us and bringing us together back in May. And man, our conversation, what was that? Maybe like a month ago, has just stayed with me. And in honor of this theme for this month, which is all about making the space to heal in your lives, I felt like our conversation gave me a little of that, because we were talking about some of the work pillar, we call it the work pillar here, some of the ways that we've had to heal our relationship with how we were originally maybe introduced to who to be and how to be in the online space as a businesswoman, all those things. And you just shared so many stories that felt so freeing for me. So I'm so grateful for you to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
So for the folks that don't know Amber Lilyestrom, just give us a quick who you are and why you do what you do in the world.
Yeah, I'm a business mentor and brand alchemist. I'm a mom to two amazing kids and a wife. And I've been doing this thing for 10 years. I'm a 20-year marketing pro and worked in a university and higher education and taught marketing there. And I worked in sports. And I just have this real deep passion for helping people liberate themselves and live in the full alignment of their own divine calling and their dreams. And I really believe, as a society, if more of us can get on the path to our dreams and say yes to them and listen to those whispers, I just think healing is imminent. And I think that most people hurt because at some point along the way, they had this dream and they just stopped going for it. They stopped believing in it. They had people who told them it wasn't possible. And anybody who's on the path to their dream, it's just they move differently, they love differently, they live differently. And I'm just such a firm believer in that. And so I'm here to be a conduit and a cheerleader and a supporter to help people live fully into their dream lives.
Yeah. A big part of my dream has always been, Amber, to build a business around my life. But I have found that in different seasons, I try to fit my life in around my business. And I believe that many of the women that I support as a business mentor as well in this season know exactly what that means. When we are saying we prioritize our families and family first and fun first and joy first, but our calendars look like any and everything but that. How does that occur to you? Because when I met you, let me tell you one of the things that was most fascinating. So you guys, we were all talking about podcasts. And the thing that struck me about you is you said something like, well, yeah, I record my podcast when I'm on a walk amongst the trees and all this. And I'm like, wait, what? Like just even the idea of that was like, wait a minute, what? How are you able to do that? And I was just fascinated by more of the things, that have been revealed as I followed you on social. And how has that occurred to you? Have you always been this or had this ability to infuse life, your family into your business? Or did you go through maybe some of what I went through, which is a season of actually not prioritizing family in the same way that I thought I was?
Yeah. I think that for me, Patrice, I started my business because of my daughter and my desire to be the mom that was here. If we play the tape all the way back, my mom was an entrepreneur when I was really young, and she ended up selling her company because there was some trauma that I experienced in a childcare situation. And my mom gave up her dream for her first dream, which was her kids. And she never picked her camera back up again. And she was a really successful photographer, and she had built a photography agency. And this is back in the 80s as a woman. And so I think for my whole life, I watched what that looked like to have somebody who was an artist and a very creative person and a really dynamic entrepreneurial spirit go get jobs because that's what she had to do later and not get back into her art and into her magic. And she did what she had to do, and she provided for my brother and I in incredible ways so that we could live out our dreams. But I always carried that with me of like really seeing what the weight of that was. And so for me, when I was working in my corporate career and my daughter was born, I just knew, I couldn't do it. I had to get out of there. And I knew I was going to have to create something that was going to work so that I could be creatively challenged and I could be in my art, but I could also be really present with my child. And so that was really like the bedrock of what I wanted to create. And then I did that, and I called it the Naptime Hustle because I was like working it, she would go take a nap and I would be coaching clients, and I would be like, the baby monitor would be right there. And there were moments I had to give her Peppa Pig on the iPad in the crib. I mean, this is like real talk in the early days, but it was all for the sake of building the life that, we were living. And that was, to be as present with my daughter and not miss the moments I couldn't get a replay on, and not live with the weight of regret, and not, frankly, inflict that upon my kids, because that sense of dissatisfaction and lack of fulfillment, it's painful to experience that as a child to a parent who isn't getting to do the things that they really need to do for their life. And so I've always had that as like a part of my North Star. And I've coined this idea of like, I talk about having a life first business, and I do have that still. I work 3 days a week in the chair. I work the time of day that my daughter goes to like nature school 3 days a week. And so we homeschool, like hybrid homeschool, and she goes, and that's when I'm working. And then when she's out of there, I'm really not. I might be finishing up a podcast interview, but I just know how precious it is. And my husband and I will say to each other all the time on those long nights, and we're tired and we're like, oh my gosh, I've just been going hard all day. 10 and 2. And what I mean by that is I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. And we just don't get it back. We just don't get 10 and 2 back. And that's a fact of life. And I know that, the 10 years from now version of me is going to look back and say, I'm so glad that you did it this way, because you got to really be there for this. You got to have a front row seat, and you got to enjoy those experiences and go to swim class and go to gymnastics and be at riding and like do those things with your kids that are truly like the most important thing to me in my entire life. So my business gets to support my life. And it's because I decided and I designed it that way. And that's the model that I've created. And it's been really, really deeply meaningful.
So good, Amber. When you say you decided, I have experienced making the decision, and then just by virtue of the people that we end up in rooms with and we end up in masterminds with, and we are exposed so much as speakers, and you're in the green room and you're hearing people talk about their business and their numbers. Do you ever feel at all any tug of war despite the decision?
I have, but I think the thing, Patrice, that comes back to it is I'm just so clear on my own personal vision for my life. And the reality is when I'm God willing, when I get there, and I think it's also important to note, I had a near-death experience when my daughter was born. And it was truly like a quantum leap in consciousness. Like it peeled it all back. I'm also a poet. I didn't even say that. That should have been the first thing I said. I'm a poet, so I don't look at life sort of like a normal person does, like I just like see the light and I see the heart beating in somebody's chest. And I look at the world through the lens of being a poet and a deeply feeling person and a seer. And so I sit in those rooms and I think that's so amazing that you're having that impact and you're doing all those amazing things. But like, what's it like? What's your family like? And what are your kids like? And how's everybody doing? And you can hear the answer. And it's like, well, money is wonderful. I think money's great. I mean, we certainly do well. And I'm so grateful for that. But at the end of the day, when I'm laying there, in that moment, in that bed, God willing, that I get to have my experience of leaving this body at an old age and that just I run out of gas. This body's just done. The bones are complete. They did their thing. I am going to be thinking about the there that is right now. And I'm going to be thinking to myself, I hope I'm not wishing, oh, I wish I could go back. I mean, maybe I will, but I'm hopefully just going to feel really at peace and grateful. But that's the truth. I know that's the truth. And so we're in the moment right now. And I love impacting, going and speaking on stages. And I love loving people. But guess what? My daughter's in the green room with me. I take her. We go together. We have these memories together. She was there at that event at Kathy's house.
I know. Remember, I left my purse at Kathy's house and we had to go back. And then we realized you left yours.
I did too. And I didn't get it till the next day. Hilarious.
But yeah, I love that. And at that age, I remember when Reagan was coming with me to different events and people would say to me like, you don't mind pulling her out of school? I'm like, no, I personally don't mind pulling her out of school because I think it's important for her to see what I'm doing when I'm gone and for her to see the people and feel the impact. I also think that this is the best education for her is to see her mom and know the story of all the things that we experienced and being able to turn that pain into something bigger and more purposeful. And no, I've never regretted pulling her out of school. Redefining Wealth Live is coming up in a few weeks and she'll be there. She'll be one of the photographers because what better experience for her as a photographer than to be able to be in that space and be in that presence. So yeah, I love that. I love that. I do agree with you too, Amber. For me over the years, I have felt the tug of war of like, okay, should I be doing more? But because I do have a strong sense that my relationship with my daughter has been everything to me. And that I've told you this, she just recently turned 17. And to know the depth of the relationship that we have and how beautiful it is, I'm grateful for all the times I did say no to other things in order to say yes to that time. Because just yesterday, I was out walking her dog and I turned the corner and she's backing into the driveway. And, you know, I see her jump out the car and I have that moment of like, oh my gosh, like, look at my child coming home from school, jumping out the car. Like, she's a person. You know, you just still feel that like, oh my gosh, she's not the 5, the 7, the 10, the 12-year-old. She is really a young woman. And I'm so grateful that I don't feel like I'll look back and say, I missed all these moments. I don't feel that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so beautiful and so aspirational, I think. So thank you for sharing that. I couldn't agree more. And I think there's all these wonderful things out there that we can experience and we can have. But when you really think about like what matters the most to you in your life, and we're all going to have a different answer to that, as we should. And this is part of the whole, you know, anatomy of a dream. And really this concept, I firmly believe that if the dream is in you, it is for you. And it's meant to be your direction, and it is meant to lead you on your way to have the experience you're meant to have. And you're a superstar, Patrice. And so it's like, you've got to follow what that beat is, because your work and your words and your heart is here to have this amazing impact in the way that you have. And so I love that you're doing that dance with yourself and discerning, okay, is this the way of my dream, God? Is this the way I'm supposed to be moving in this next chapter? And, you know, you're so good at giving yourself the time and the space to really contemplate that from your center. And I think that it's so beautiful the way you model that for all of us to see, you know, and I think that's the game changer, guys, is that when we can do that in our own way. And for me, it is, I'm a poet. Yes, I am a speaker. I am a writer. I'm a coach and mentor. I'm someone who's really good at witnessing people and really revealing truth and helping illuminate for them the pathway that feels most resonant and just holding with them in that. And it's a very sacred and holy thing. And I just feel like this is the way God made me. And so that's what I'm doing, you know, and I'm so grateful for each person that comes along that I get the opportunity to know and to really walk with on that path to their dream.
Thank you, friend. And thank you for that acknowledgement. So I imagine that we both have built these platforms and have built businesses that do well now. But for someone who is starting out as an entrepreneur, possibly, or still in their corporate job and imagining or envisioning that one day they'll be able to do the same, how have you gone about making sure that you are leveraging people, resources, pricing yourself, all the things so that you can maintain and sustain this idea of, well, I work 3 days a week between these hours for the kids? Because when you're first starting, and not even when you're first starting, even me as my business evolves, it can feel like a never ending job because there's just always so many things to do. What do you say to someone who's just starting out and they're like, that sounds good, but there's so much to be done?
Yeah. Well, I think it's like, let's just get really clear on what is essential and what's actually going to drive results. I mean, there's certainly many, many things we can do. And there's no one path, but I think at the end of it, the ethos of one of my core programs, Ignite Your Business, is change the way you think, help more people, make more money, have more fun. And it's like these 4 things that feel like the rinse and repeat. And if you're doing these 4 things and you're centering these sort of 4 things in the way you're showing up to your business, it works, it really works. And I think the one that feels important to just really pull out here is the helping people. How do we serve? When I started this thing, I started at first with doing brand coaching, yes, and business coaching, but I didn't feel that confident in it. I didn't feel like I had really proven myself yet. And so not only did I do that, but I was like doing website design and some graphic design, and I had a high level of skill in that. And I did both. Like I packaged this thing together because I wanted to build the skill of the coaching. And I knew I didn't feel like in integrity to just straight up sell that yet. And I added this other piece, and it was such a hell yes for people. It was such a potent offering. And those were my first clients. And I'm so grateful for them because they were the ones that really kicked this whole thing off and helped me get that practice and realize what I was really good at and become better and better and better at it. So I think that's the thing. It's like we have to figure out like what people's deep need is and what our skill set is and where that intersection is, and then play with it. And also, I think sometimes people can be and I don't know if you agree with this, Patrice, but because it's like online business and all this is like, when we started this, it wasn't really like a thing, it wasn't like, I was the number 1 Google search for brand coach back in 2014 because it just wasn't a thing. People like, brand coach? What is that? That's kind of where I started. And I think about now, it's like people almost a little too casual about it. They're a little too like expectant in certain ways, or it's like, well, I should be able to charge this. And it's like, honey, right. I love you so much. Like we got to lay some foundation here. And I like the move of like when I coach my clients into this, give somebody a sampler, like show them what you're made of, show them the goods, give them an opportunity to experience so that they're coming to you saying, and that was my first client. I did an hour-long free session for her. And at the end of it, she said, this was so valuable to me. You brought up things that the $10,000 mastermind I'm in, no one's ever said these things to me. And I just am wondering if I can hire you. And I was so awkward. I was like, yeah. I had to like pull up my Word doc to figure out what my prices were because I hadn't really practiced yet. I didn't really know. And she's laughing. I was bumbling over my words, and she was so kind. And I love you, Melissa, forever. And she just said, yeah, I want to do that. And she signed up for the first 3-month package. And that was what sparked me to give my notice like 4 days later. That one client, I quit my job with one client saying yes, because I knew if I could take everything that I've been giving to this job, all 40 plus hours a week, I was producing 100 events a year in that job, in my collegiate athletics marketing job, and take all of that back, everything I've created, all my life force, all my energy, all my heart, and put it towards my business. What could I do? And so I bet on myself with that one client. And then within a week, I had 2, 3, 4. And a month later, I quit, and I had, I was making essentially what I was making a month in my job. But you have to hear, I was so convicted. I made decisions. My ego wasn't leading. I was grateful. I mean, my first few clients, I was like building their website, doing their copy editing, building their logo. I was like, I will mow your lawn if you want me to. Like, I'll come and walk the dog for you. Like, it didn't matter. I was just so grateful that I was now over the fence in this new world. And I think to those that are new, it's like that level of being eager. I love helping people who are new out of the gate with things that are like ready to do the thing. That's what wins. And I think this idea sometimes of, it's almost like you get, I'm going to say the word entitlement, like a little dash of that, but also this like, well, expectancy of like, it should just be like this and it should be easy. Like, honey, I don't care how many programs you've done until you've been in the arena with the dust on your brow and actually sitting in the seat with the client who's unhappy or frustrated with themselves and projecting it at you, and sat in a room with a group coaching session and everybody's staring at you. Until you've like put in those reps, it's going to be hard to hold that. And so it takes practice. And so I think like you just can't get enough reps in, enough practice in. And before you know it, you realize like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this now.
Right, right. Oh, so good. I really led with the helping people first as well. I know that I can say that. I still see things that pop up on Facebook memories. And I'm like, I was saying these things. I can't tell you how long ago. Like, I am not new to this. I am true to this. This has been the spirit in which I've been operating for a very long time. And even for me, before I became a financial coach that was being paid, I was volunteering. And it was building the muscle. It was building the muscle at a financial education nonprofit. It was exposing me to the fact that I could be paid to do these things, but also it was so fulfilling. And I do believe my financial psychology hat that when we are so unfulfilled, we are destined to mismanage our finances because it creates that deep void. So sometimes even just doing it, even to the capacity that you have the degree for initially, is the healing. Because it's allowing your soul to express what it came here to do with what it knows at this moment, right? Like with what you have access to at this moment, which for me has not always been about money. Hence our tagline, chase purpose, not money. It's the thing that just kind of led from one thing to the next. You go with the intention and the desire to help people, and you can't help but be introduced to new perspective, new resources, new thoughts, new ideas, new connections. And those are the things that lead to the next. And, you know, man, what a journey. As you were just talking about your own, I just think about so many of those first clients who would say, yeah, they worked with me for like $100. And I was so happy to like serve them and build their budget and then do all the things. And I even get excited thinking about it. I'm so grateful that I just said yes, even when I didn't understand fully what I was saying yes to. I had no expectations, honestly. Hey, Purpose Chaser, I've got some great news. If you are ready to experience the transformation you've been craving for, it's not too late to still join me in Atlanta, October 7th and 8th for Redefining Wealth Live 2024. This is where purpose, prosperity, and personal growth all come together. Over these days together, you will hear from incredible speakers, connect with like-hearted people who are just as committed to living fully as you are, and gain tools that'll help you shift from where you are to where you were truly meant to be. If you're serious about taking control of your life and creating wealth and well-being, you deserve this experience. Head to redefiningwealthlive.com for all the details and to grab your ticket. That's redefiningwealthlive.com. It's not too late, and I can't wait to see you there. I love that you said, if I put all my life force and my energy and everything I have into this over here, what could happen if I did that here? And how long ago was that now? 10 years or more?
10 years. Yep.
10 years. So if you were willing to mow the lawn, fold the laundry, in addition to the website and the copy and all the things, how were you still creating that life first type of environment in that season? What types of things were you putting in place to make sure you preserve that as a priority?
I made my life the reason why my business had to work. With that as the premise, I got real creative. And I remembered, I used to run 7 ticketed sports Division I athletic programs on the marketing side of things. I have enormous capacity, like supernatural capacity. And so I took that and I channeled it in, and I was just like, a website. I mean, come on, like give me a real challenge. And I just didn't make it hard. I just kept thinking like, this is, again, that saying like, choose your hard. This is so easy. And I just kept reminding myself of that. This is like, I literally get paid to sit here and edit somebody's copy and read their words. And that's how I knew that it was like, I was good at it too, because it just was like flow state. And, I had structure. I think this is important. I still do. Like, you're not getting on my Calendly when I don't want you on my Calendly. The Voxer's not getting opened when I don't want it open. I have just beautiful boundaries where I hold the container of when I'm working and when I'm not. And so that's such a personal thing. We need to all know what that is. And we've got to build that. And I find that a lot of people don't know that, and they don't know how to build that structure. And I think that was truly like one of those elements where at the beginning she was napping twice a day. So I had 4 hours a day to get work done when she was in those naps. And, mama was on it. Then she went down to one nap and it was like, woohoo, okay, we're going to have to figure this out now. I would stretch that nap a little bit. And then I would work at night. And it was just like when she was finally asleep, I would just work later. And it just had to be what it was. And I was so grateful that it was that way. I was like almost in disbelief. Like, I can't believe I'm like working these small amount of hours and I'm getting paid this much money comparatively. And there's no ceiling on what I can do. So I was always focusing on, I think, really the positive aspects of it, of what I was creating, knowing, my big goal was it wasn't, I didn't retire my husband. We did that together. We made that decision. He was a police officer at the time. And he would have 4 days on, 3 days off. So then on his days when his schedule would have, I would work more when he would be home on that one, that day that wasn't a weekend or whatever. So yeah, I really budgeted my time intelligently, and I was really focused. And again, I think that it's hard to be focused when you're in indecision. But when you're clear and you say, this is what I'm doing, and you set that intention and then you follow through on it, it makes things a lot simpler.
Mm-hmm. Something that I've adapted, I may have shared with you, it's something I come back to often, is just, how do I create X without Y? And it really helps me keep things simpler and remember my why constantly, that my heart is to really, I've always been a light worker. I've always just wanted to do good work in the world and be of service to people. And it's so interesting how when you're not clear on that why, you start to layer complication onto just the foundation of what you want to do. And, I've said to the audience over and over again, I'm a recovering do too mucher. So, I think of an idea and then I start to add all of these things to it, Amber. And it's like, dude, if you just want to serve the people, if you just want to love on people, if you just want people to see new possibility, why are you making it that you also need to, I can't even speak of the things I've tried to do, but like, it's just like, you make it so difficult. Just stick to what you want. And that thinking differently piece, change your thinking. Every time I start to layer on complication, I have to remind myself, change your thinking. How do you create impact for your clients? Or how do you put this podcast out? Or how do you get on stages? Or how do you do whatever it is you want to do without all of these other things that you've layered on? How do you just do the thing? And it usually brings me back to center. Like, why did I need, even with Redefining Wealth Live, it's like, who asked you for all these things you made up in your head? It's like, nobody asked you for that. And it was a wonderful event. And this year is going to be a wonderful event. But girl, the things we were obsessing over, it was like, I really wanted to have these stickers on the bathroom in the lobby that, have affirmations. And now it's like 30 minutes of going back and forth with the hotel. It's like, what does that have to do with what you originally wanted to do? That's how far I have to bring myself back often.
Yeah. I think we all have our own version of that, truly. And I think one of the cool things is that we have infinity chances to change the way we think over and over and over again. And I'm still having to do that. I'll share this with you. I'm really getting the tap and the call in this next year. My personal New Year is coming up on September 6th. And I am really feeling this call to let go of the stories that I've carried around my capacity for impact in terms of like whom I can serve and the size of audiences I can serve and what my community can grow to. And I've felt like I've had this like sort of diminishment energy, insufficiency energy around myself, a story that I've told myself. And over these last few months, it's just been melting away and breaking off into pieces and kind of like, well, what was the purpose? Okay, it kept you safe, honey. I get it. But now it's really urgent. It's really urgent that you share your voice and what you've learned and what you know. It's really, really urgent, Amber. And I feel that tap and that call, and it's emboldening me. And it's almost like those false supports of what I was leaning on before are just gone. And I'm like, oh, I never really needed that. And I did, of course, but I don't now. And I've changed the way I'm thinking about it. And so it's like, I am getting back on that stage, and I am hosting that live event next year. And my next poetry book is going to come out early next year. And I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
It feels so good to be in that momentum. But I will say for the last 5 years or so, I've been holding it back a bit. And now I'm ready to not do that anymore. And it's really exciting to be feeling that confirmation, and that knowing that I'm ready to just step out in a bigger way.
Yeah. I feel that too. I really do. Like for me, it was taking the step back to dream a new dream, like going through separation and divorce and all those things. And it really shifted my conversation, and it illuminated some things for me about redefining wealth, even that before you can redefine, you have to awaken. And just looking at my own process, it's informed how I coach now, and even what will happen at Redefining Wealth Live and all these things. I feel that same, like it's time. It's your time. I feel that same level of release, even with bringing back one of my signature programs that I just let sit for 2 years because I didn't feel released. And then when I got the confirmation, that still small voice said it's time. And to bring 44 women in from all over the world, and just the way that even that experience is already just showing me that it's your time, just because of their release and their breakthroughs and the strongholds from being able to tell their stories through Command the Stage. It's just, I'm like, God, I'm ready. All of the things that I put on to hold myself back knowingly and unknowingly, I feel them falling away. And I feel like a surge of power rising up. And this force, I want you to tell us the story, Amber, if you can, the story about the race.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful.
Yeah. My dad is actually, as we're recording this, I'm hosting a birthday party for him. He's turning 80. And it's just a big deal. It's a really big deal to have the dad turning 80. And he loves to kayak. He used to be a whitewater raft, or not raft, paddling racer. I mean, my dad's an amazing athlete. And so my whole life I've grown up with that. I was a Division I soccer player as well. And it's just in my blood. And so we do this race every year, and it's sort of like a more recreational race, but we go to it with our big racing boats. And it's more like us racing each other, with everybody else in the field. And so my dad was like, you're going to do the race this year, right? And I haven't been able to the last 2 years because I was with the baby. And I said, yeah, I'm going to do it, Dad. And so we were out on the water, we're warming up. And Patrice, I had this moment come through where it was like, Amber, you have a decision to make right now. And I just felt this come through. And it was like, you're either going to stay with Dad and make sure he's good, or you're going to win the race. And I didn't even say a word to my dad other than, just kind of like joking with him. And I was like, Dad, I'm going to go win the race for you. And he was like, all right, babe, like I'm going to get, and my dad, but for the record, my dad has Parkinson's. And so his body is going through the experience of that. And yet he's still kayaking in a racing boat, and he's so inspiring to me. And he's won the race every single year, basically for the last 9 years. And I said, Dad, I'm going to win the race. And he's like, all right, babe, So we get out and the bell rings and I just start paddling. And I gave myself full permission. I've never done this before, to just paddle as hard as I could in the body, in the boat, with no holding back. And I'm going, Patrice, as hard as I can. And I get to the first buoy in the first boat and they're like, you are so far ahead. And I'm like, I can't see behind me and I'm not going to look back. I'm just like, I'm going. And I'm just feeling like all the girl power vibes too, right? Because there's I was scoping the competition in the parking lot. There was a 20-year-old dude who was really jacked. And I was thinking, oh, this guy's going to give me a hard time. And I'm just going. I get to the next one. And the guy asks me, says, did the race start yet? And I looked at him, I said, yeah, I'm it. And it was like a moment. And then I'm like, where's the third buoy? And I get to the third one and the guy goes, you've clearly won the race. And I said, I'm winning this for my dad. But as I got to the fourth one, and I got into this open space and this open water where I was completely by myself, I just felt this overwhelming sense of emotion. And it was like, I'm winning this for me too. And I am having a existential, like holy experience of feeling what it feels like to be in my full power and not look back and just go. And you know what happens, friends, when we go in our full power? We are going to be noticed. We are going to separate from the crowd. We are going to feel every single thing come up and be reminded of all of those times when we held back, when we put the throttle down because we didn't want to make someone else uncomfortable moving into our full power. And that's what I've been doing. And I went through heartbreak and pregnancy loss and the end of my fertility over the last few years. I went through friendship loss and just like a real dark night of the soul over the last like 5-ish years on in all these ways. My dad's Parkinson's, like these really hard things. And my body was in a lot of pain and I was really broken down from it all. But I also had these amazing triumphs, like adopting our son and building this amazing space that I'm in and you know, serving clients and releasing my poetry book. And I'll tell you, like, as I was writing Paddle, I was signing this book, I was bleeding. I was having a miscarriage. And I was signing this book and I never got to fully launch it because of what I was going through. And I'm in this boat, Patrice, and I am paddling and I'm just like remembering all of this and I'm remembering myself. And it's like I felt no pain. All I could feel was my own power and my own life force. And I rounded the bend and I got closer to the beach and I could hear my kids yelling for me. Like, go mom, you know, and they're just like, my daughter's standing there and she's waiting and she's like, and I did it. And I finished first and I get up off the boat and I stand on the beach and my kids are hugging me. My husband's cheering for me. And I beat the whole field by 5 minutes. I won the race by 5 minutes. My dad came in fourth and he came on in and we were all cheering for him. And it was like, it's hard to put words to. It changed me. It changed me and I can't unsee it and I can't unknow it. And I can't unaccess what unlocked in that experience. And I'm so grateful for it. I feel this charge of like really helping women return to their power right now in a big way.
You told me this story one-on-one and it felt the exact same way in this moment. That story gives me permission to paddle. That story gives me permission to not look back. It gives me permission to release all the things that have happened over the last few years and say, in spite of that, I'm going all the way. And I want to know what it feels like to give myself permission to go all the way because I'm no longer in a relationship that makes me feel like I have to hide out, diminish what I'm doing a little bit, not be too big, not have too much success, have just enough, manage myself. My daughter is older now and doesn't need mom. She needs mom, but not in the exact same way that she did as she was younger. And so it does afford me a different level of flexibility now that I did reserve for many years because I made that choice because of her age and how I wanted to show up. But now it's just this idea of like full permission to paddle, to just go all the way. And I love that you talked about not even looking back, like just this is between me and me. This is between me and me, friend. I just feel that so strongly. And I'm so grateful for your example. I felt very emotional when you said it the first time and nothing changed. Like in hearing it again, like I don't know a person who can listen to that story and not feel something unlock for them too. So thank you so much for sharing with the same vigor as which you shared it with me the first time. Now, I happen to be one of those people that are motivated to work out on my own, but I personally don't get the best fit pillar results I can when I don't use a professional trainer because everything that's permissible is not necessarily beneficial. But having a full life can make it so hard to get on the same schedule as a personal trainer. But when I discovered Future in January 2023, the game changed. It has helped me stay committed to my fit pillar goals on the go. It's a personal training app made to fit your life. You get a dedicated coach, personalized training plans, and access to unlimited workouts. And trust me, you will enjoy them. I would love for you to check out Future today if you know that you can do okay with your Fit Pillar by yourself, but you want that additional support and you really want to get serious about your Fit Pillar. Go to patricewashington.com/future and get 50% off your first month today. That's 50% off your first month when you use my link, patricewashington.com/future. As we wrap up, Amber, for someone who is on this path of wanting to give themselves permission to paddle and to own it, to rise in their power and to go against the grain by not letting people say, by putting your life first, you are not living up to your potential. You need to be doing more and doing all the things. What are just final words of encouragement that you have for those of us who are seeking alignment and dealing with the awkwardness of being the one who really values alignment in this season?
Yeah. Well, I posted something on Instagram this morning that actually feels relevant. And these words are, it feels confusing because you're creating something that never existed before in a world that has yet to understand how desperately it needs what is coming through you. Create like you're living and breathing at the bleeding edge of your new life. You are.
That's it.
Yeah. And the thing is, the dream always precedes the resources 100% of the time. And so if you feel like, but I just don't know, you're doing it right. That's how it works, babe. And so we lean into conversations like this and we listen and we share and we take baby steps and we take quantum leaps and we just keep going on the path until we become her. And I'm so proud of you all because first things first, you wouldn't be listening to this conversation. You wouldn't even be here at this point in the conversation if this wasn't for you and if this weren't confirmation of that truth. And the reality is we need as many light workers saying yes to their dreams and following the path, because going back to what I said at the very beginning, that's a very different world that we get to live in and raise our children in and grow together in. And so I'm just so grateful to be walking this path with all of you and with you, Patrice. It is such a gift and it's such a blessing. So just thank you for everything that you do for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, friend. How can people keep up with Amber?
Yeah. Well, I'm on amberlilyestrom.com to check out all the things that I'm doing. And then my Instagram is Amber Lilyestrom, where my poetry, my words, and my daily musings are shared.
Yes. Thank you, Amber. You guys, I hope that this episode blessed your soul. I hope that you heard something. I mean, I know there were many nuggets, but that you heard something that literally made your belly leap just with knowing that you're not alone and whatever you desire is truly possible for you. This entire month on the podcast has been about creating the space to heal, making space to heal. And for those of you who have felt any tension in the work pillar in particular, I hope that this conversation was healing for you. It was healing for me just to get to talk to Amber again. Come on into the Redefining Wealth app. Share with me what your takeaways were. Let's discuss how we can continue to change our thinking and help people. And as Amber said, what is it? Make money and have fun and all the things.
That's it.
Let's continue to talk about those things, because when we do, it is the stuff that allows us to continue to live our life's purpose, find fulfillment, and earn more without ever feeling like you have to chase money. We'll talk to you later.